You're listening to the Frugal Crafter podcast.
I'm Lindsay Weirich, and today I have Sheila Landry on the show. She is an artist and owner of TolePaintingDesigns.com. Sheila, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
I am great. The sun is finally out. How is the weather up in you're not too far from me, across the bay
No,
there.
no, it's supposed to be cloudy and rainy till Sunday, but we had sun this morning, so still kind of sunny and nice, so that's good. That's
Yes,
good.
that's always a gift this time of year when we get some nice warm weather.
It was
So,
cold though. Yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah,
It was
it's
like
been
3 degrees or something Celsius. But
mm,
yeah, it's deceiving.
I know you see the
So
beautiful warm sunshine and you go out and it's like, "Oh yes, this is
yeah, right.
it's still cold."
Not yet.
So I have you on the podcast today to talk about a hobby that I actually enjoyed back in high school, called toll painting. Could you explain to the viewers what toll painting is?
Well, initially it was, I guess, European. They decorated tinware and, wood with mostly stroke work. Like anybody who knows what like Pennsylvania Dutch, they when the settlers brought it over, I guess. I had to look up when when I saw you were going to ask me that. I kind of looked up because I wanted to get the everything correct on it, but modern day toll painting is interchangeable with decorative painting. And what it is as an industry is you buy a pattern packet and it has line drawing in it, and you usually do like a base coating and a shading and a highlighting and use typically acrylic paints. So it's mainly done in acrylics nowadays. And it's just painting. It's you could do portraiture. Most of the stuff is more whimsical and cute. So there's florals, there's animals, everything. So it's kind of just it's a fancy term for kind of acrylic painting, I guess.
Oh,
And
wonderful. How long have you been designing toll painting projects?
since the 90s, since probably about well, I've been painting since I was 12, 10, 9.
Mhm.
Long time. I've always loved art and all different kinds of creating. And I used tube acrylics when I was younger, but I used to live in Chicago, and I went to one of the big shows from ACCI. I don't know if you remember that organization. It's a big craft organization, and my husband's sister was in the craft industry, and she took me to one of these big trade shows, and it was like, wow, it was like Christmas. You could
Mm.
imagine, because it was at the big Rosemont Center there. That it's huge. It took us 3 days to get through, and I was in heaven. And I met up with some people in Chicago that were from All American Crafts magazine,
Oh yeah.
and they that's they paintworks they did. They had 13 magazines at the time, Creative Woodworks and Crafts and Paintworks and Craftworks and all these different ones. And they were such a nice group of people, and they invited me out to dinner because they saw some of my work. And ultimately, I wound up contributing to several of their magazines, and I was a contributing editor with Creative Woodworks and Crafts for 20 years. So I had
Oh
hundreds
wow.
of projects for scroll sawing and woodworking in there. So
How many of those magazines are still around today?
none.
None of them.
None that we know
Wow.
of. Fox Chapel has a woodworking magazine. I actually have 2 woodworking projects that are coming out next year in that, because I still do that a little bit. I actually have 2 websites, the Sheila Landry Design website, which is the woodworking side of it, and then the Tole Painting Design is the painting and painting surfaces side. And my partner Keith and I manage both those websites, and it's complicated. We had the Sheila Landry Designs, of course, That was the first one because I thought with branding and all, my name would be with me forever. But then that was for the scroll saw pattern site. And a lot of the painters would come there and they would think that they could buy the wood pieces of what the scroll saw patterns were, which they're very complicated. Some of them take, weeks to cut. And they'd
Oh,
say,
wow.
okay, I'd want that piece, is it $4.50 for which would be the pattern price. And it'd be like, no, that's not for sale. So we split the sites into two entities. And I kind of do the Tole painting design site. And Keith now does the Sheila Landry design, as silly as it seems. That's his baby now because he does the woodworking patterns.
Mhm. So do most Toll painters buy the wood already cut out, or do they buy the pattern and cut out the wood and then buy the the
Most
painting
of them
design?
now, I think a lot of the small stores are gone. The suppliers are dwindling. People are getting lasers. It's really evolving as a craft area. And I'm probably one of the last ones kicking that still cuts wood to sell it by hand.
Mhm.
And a lot of people think I have a laser, and I don't. I go up, and my shop is upstairs. One of the bedrooms upstairs we turned into a shop. It's a wood floor. We ripped up all the carpet and we put those little squishy mats. The whole
Mhm.
room is that. And the key to having a clean shop is that you don't have a lot of shelves and junk there. Like you could go up there now anytime and it's clean. And I
Wow.
I vacuum it every time. People are like, why would you want all that dust in your house? But um it's not that messy really because it depends what you're cutting. And on the scroll saw, you can only cut certain thicknesses of wood. And mostly I do thinner wood under a half inch or so. And for the most part, 1/8 inch or less 1/4 inch wood. And I just vacuum every time I have a cutting session. And it's actually really clean and easy to do. So, I don't know. I have my whole routine where I can design the projects. I can cut the pieces. I cut other designers' pieces with their permission. I always try to get permission if the designers are still around. Can I cut this piece for you? Although people buy books and of course they cut their own, so it's they're allowed to do it, but when I'm selling it to them, I'd like to
Mhm.
have permission if I can. As a courtesy, I try to contact designers and I'll cut custom pieces for people, and that kind of keeps me busy,
Mhm.
and it's as people are getting into laser cutting more though, um I think the industry is changing a lot, because there's a lot of my fellow designers that have bought lasers for their own designs
Mhm.
and they're selling their own pieces. And it's my business on that side has slowed down a bit, but it's not a bad thing because it gives me more time to design.
Mhm.
It's because there's only one of me. Like I can't cut, pack, sand, ship, and design and learn.
Mhm.
That's my life. It's busy with all that. So it's like a balancing act to get 'em, everything to work how it should.
Oh, yeah. Anytime you're dealing with individual orders, I think it takes much more time than you think, especially if you're cutting things out and then packaging it and shipping it. And that's just for one sale versus when you're designing a pattern that can be uploaded into your website and then be downloaded multiple times. After you've done that work once, then you can kind of reap the rewards into the future. Can people
Well,
use the patterns that you make? Can they cut them on their lasers? Is that a format that you offer? Or I don't know how the
yes.
lasers work.
They're SVG files, and
Okay.
my partner Keith, we both do graphics. We use Adobe products like Illustrator. For me to create a pattern, I draw it in Illustrator. I take the photos, do that in Photoshop. Um, I write in Word and integrate them in InDesign. and then we produce them in Acrobat. So it takes 5 programs for us to produce a pattern, but our patterns they're all vectors
Mhm.
anyway. So vector is what lasers and that's the language that's read by lasers. So
And the die cutters that the crafters use, the paper cutters, or use
right, I
SVG
can do
files as well.
any of my patterns I can do on my silhouette.
Mhm.
It's very easy. You just convert it to an SVG, or there's certain, silhouette I think has its own extension too, but they're all vector files. So once you learn that basic vector language, like with Keith, he does a lot of the word signs, the word art on the Sheila Landry design site. And we get so many customers thinking that he just takes a font and throws it on a sheet of paper and says, this is the pattern. And it's like, no, because like a letter E, lowercase e, the center would fall out. You
Mhm.
have to have the parts to hang on when you're cutting it. And on a good scroll saw pattern, you don't notice those hang-on spots. They're not
Mhm.
obvious like when you have a basic stencil that you used to buy at Staples, to do a poster board, you'd see those little blocks holding the letters on. So that's
Mhm.
part of the artwork that we do. And it takes a lot. I mean, we have to purchase our fonts, of course, because you can't just see a font and take it and trace
Mhm.
it and call it your own. So you have to do all the legal things first, and then you have to bring them into the program, and a lot of times you have to hand trace over them. You put a layer on them and hand trace them and make them work and shape them like you're reshaping the fonts. So they're no longer fonts; they're graphics. You
Mhm.
convert it. So
What side of your business is more busy, the patterns on Sheila Landry Designs.com for the scroll saw, or your painting patterns?
it's hard to say. Keith gets his I'm gonna say I still have like 500 patterns on the Sheila Landry, like you say, and that's helped me on my slow times on the Tole painting design site. Like I have patterns from 25 years ago that are still selling, so it's really nice when they sell because you don't have to do anything. The customer just downloads them, and it's really sustained us like through our lean times, where Keith keeps designing new patterns and it gets busy there. He puts out more newsletters than me. He's very meticulous with stuff like that. Every 10 days, a newsletter goes out. Me, it's like they're lucky to get one every 2 months with me. But it's hard because I get busy with stuff. Like I have a North Star Village, I call it. It's a little series of patterns, of painting patterns of Christmas Village storefronts. And whenever I put out a new one, I only put a couple a year because they're so complicated. They're like high-end patterns, and they're probably about 30 or 40 pages, the patterns.
Wow.
It's all my patterns are. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I've from writing with the magazine for so many years, my editor Robert used to tell us, you need to write as if this is their first time doing a pattern. So that's kind of how I got into the business side of things and writing patterns. And all my patterns, I try to speak to my audience. I like to offer more information there because they can skip over it if they know what they're doing. But if it's not there and they need it, then they're lost and you lose somebody. And I'm a firm believer that without bringing in new people into the industry, it's going to die out. Now, the woodworking, the scroll sewing part of the business, Keith's been worried a lot lately, I'll be honest, because it's been slow, because many of the customers they were in their 70s when I started, 60s and 70s. And, a lot of them are passing away and, they're getting too old to do it. And kids nowadays, They don't want to sit and scroll saw, they have lasers, they have computers, they do, they design on GIMP. All they have to do is program their lasers and they have the cutouts. So they don't want to sit there and do the hobby, so to speak. So that's having a hard time. And, you hear the same about the Tole painting side, that because, again, it's the demographic is older and people are, where they can't do it anymore. And I think that you hear a lot of times from the painting side of my life that, oh, painting is dying, and I don't know. I don't buy into that, because art will never die. You have your doomsayers that say crafts and arts aren't going to die, but we all seem to have this urge to create and make stuff. People like making stuff. They've been doing it, and this will sound goofy, but they've been doing it since cavemen. And I don't think in my lifetime that people are not going to want to do art again. I think, though, that you have to be resilient and you have to be open to change, and you have to be open to learning new things, and you have to bring in young people and make it interesting so that people will want to do stuff, and then you'll have a viable, time of art.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that with certain hobbies, there does seem to be almost like a trend cycle. And I think you mentioned getting started in the 90s or designing patterns since the 90s. I took a toll painting class and it was very popular in my town. It was just a small town when I was 14, and I think my mother wanted to take it, but she was nervous to sign up, so she signed me up for it. And then she was seeing the projects I was bringing home, and then she would like buy an extra kit and like start painting it. And then she started taking the classes. And which is definitely more of her demographic at the time. I was the only teenager in the class. But the one thing that I really appreciated about toll painting was that it was very, very heavily focused on technique and like learning how, like, I use a side loading technique so much in watercolor, and I hardly ever see a watercolorist use side loading, but that was a toll painting
No.
technique. And just like how to hold your brush right, how to take care of your brushes, all those, like, really, it's got really strong fundamentals. And then you also end up with a finished piece that is a good product that you get this, you see the pattern. That's what you're going to make. When you're done the class, you've made that pretty darn close. Obviously people have different skill levels, but it can, like you said, you start with the base coat, then you do a highlight, then you do a shading, and that's something that breaks it down, and it's not as esoterical as like making art with a capital A is. So hopefully, I'm trying to think if there's anything out right now that's kind of the same as toll painting, but just being called something different. Can you think of anything like that?
Well, I think, like you say, with following the formula, you know, of toll painting, it's good in ways because it does spell that out for people. Here's how you do this, this, this. You base coat, you shade, you highlight. But I also think that might be one of the negative parts of it, because what I'm seeing is there are some people that get so um focused on following those instructions to the letter that they feel that they can't deviate at all from it. And they have to, I'm trying to think of the word. It restricts their creativity in a way if they allow it to, if they don't have the confidence to try to do. Like, it's funny, for all the times I taught, I've had students that hang on your every word. You probably have this with your teaching. They hang on every word and they wait for you to do your step. And then you have the other one on the corner of the room that's 10 steps ahead and went off in the weeds. But it's great.
Yeah.
It's nice to see, and I encourage that in people. I've had people ask, can I do your pattern, but can I change this to red from blue? And it's like, well, yeah, the point is I want it as a springboard. And that's why a lot of my videos that I do, I haven't done a lot, but I'm doing more. This has been a goal for 2024, is I'm going to be starting to do more videos. And part of this is I want to be more comfortable with the camera because I think I know what I'm doing. I feel confident in it. You may or may not like the outcome, but I mean, I feel confident in the techniques. And as I paint, even when I'm painting and designing by myself, I always think, how could I teach this? And that's probably because of my magazine background, that I was always doing patterns for the magazine. So I always had to think of it in a different mindset. And I want to do a lot of technique. A lot of my videos are just technique videos because there's so many out there where they take you from the beginning of the project to the end of the project in an hour and a half, 2-hour class video. And I kind of feel that that part of YouTube or whatever is got plenty for people to do. And I would rather do shorter videos where I could focus on a certain technique, like say dry brushing or float shading or something like that. And that's what I try to do with a lot of my videos. We're going to just do the background and show you how I can get this cool background, and then you can put anything on it. And it kind of gives them tools so they can go in their own direction. Because if you don't build up those basic skills, people don't have the courage to do further. A lot of people don't, I should
Hmm.
say, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, it definitely is worth investing in the basics so that when you do go to try that full painting that you know what to do when the teacher says do this, or you know how to get the effect that you're looking for. And yeah, there's a lot more full tutorials than there is like a glossary of terms and basic techniques.
Every pattern I have a sheet with terms and techniques, and it gives a pair. I was just thinking in this new line of patterns that I'm doing of revising it because I want to put more on. It fills the whole sheet, and I keep making the font smaller as I add more onto it. And I'm thinking, well, it might have to go to 2 sheets, and I try to include it in every single pattern I do because of you might get somebody that says, okay, what's float shading, what's dry
Mhm,
brushing, what's the difference between dry brushing and stippling? You use the same brush, but it's a
mhm.
different technique and it's a different result you're going to get from it. And you don't want to have to explain that every time in the pattern over and over, but because things get wordy. I guess that's my biggest um thing I need to work on, is to streamline things a little bit more, yet still get the idea across properly. And videos are a great way to do that for people.
Yeah, I think a video companion with your patterns would be great, especially if it had like a clickable link in there that would jump you to the video in the exact place in the video. Like if you had Sheila's basic techniques and it's like an hour long, but it's like each technique back to back to back, and somebody could hit, the link like on YouTube where there's chapters. Somebody could hit the link and get right to dry brushing, right to side loading, right to double loading, or whatever the techniques you want to show, so that even if they're a seasoned painter but they've forgotten because it's been a while, they can bounce right in there, see that technique, and be on their way, because there aren't, at least not in my area, there aren't Tole painting classes like there used to be.
No.
When I was growing up, there were at least 3 women in my town that was teaching Tole painting lessons, and they'd be on different nights of the week, and you'd have some women that would go to all 3 classes. You'd have some people that would
Hmm.
just go to learn from one teacher. There'd be some drama where nobody was going to go to that teacher anymore, just like small town drama and stuff. But they all had full classes, and um, they all taught a little bit differently, but they all had the basic skills and the basic steps. But I think it was the reason it was so popular was that it was a night out for these women that
Well,
just like,
yeah,
I need to get out, I need to do something for me. And the closest thing I think we have right now to that are sip and paints, which are less
right.
technique um focused, because it's like you kind of, you drop in, and then you do your best for an hour and a half, and then people might not pick up a brush again. And it's such a variety of levels. And I think that's probably the closest thing that I can think of right now to the old Toll painting classes that I used to go to.
Well, there's so many Zoom classes right now. There's a lot. And that's why I was kind of afraid to get into the Zoom thing, into the subscription thing, because, well, for one, a lot of the Zoom ones, they're hosted by a host, I guess. And the designers themselves don't make a lot of money on them because, and it does, unfortunately, it does come down to money when it's your living. I've had friends that were designers that were doing Zoom and they can't do them anymore because, they do all the work. Half of it goes to the hosting company. Then there's the supplies, the time, all this. And, by the time they're done, it's really hard because the market is so flooded with Zoom classes that the quantity, of students aren't there.
What do you mean they're hosted? The artists aren't doing their own Zoom channels and arranging their own
No,
students?
no, not everybody's like, like you're on Teachable. And I have a friend who's on Teachable who I follow. Not everybody does that. They go through like, it's almost like a convention. It's like online conventions, they call them. And,
Oh, huh.
they'll put out a catalog and have so many classes. And, there's, I don't remember the name of, I'm not naming people, but I mean, I don't know what they call the host or other than the host that has the company name. Okay, this company, say Sheila Tole Painting Designs, is hosting a Zoom convention, and I would be the coordinator. I guess that's the word, the coordinator. And I would say, okay, this is a designer I like. This is a designer. Why don't you submit your designs? And then I'll pick 10 to do this convention. And I take half the money and give them half. And it's hard because not everybody can wear all the hats. Like I said, it takes a lot of time. And a lot of the teachers are older, and I'm older, I'm 62, but I try to keep up with technology as much. I used to want to do every aspect of my business, but Keith kind of took over the technical part, and because our computers are like NASA between us, and he does all the, when something's wrong with the computers, I have to rely on him. And like the 2 websites we have, we were going to have somebody build them for us, and COVID hit. And he wound up during COVID building both websites, and they're so complicated that I would never dare touch the back end of them, because I would screw something up. And so there's a lot of teachers, getting back to the other, I'm sorry, I went out in the weeds for a minute there. Not everybody figures out how to do other than hook up the microphone and the camera. They don't know how to host the things. And that's another whole aspect of the business. And, it's good for some teachers. I'm not saying it's a horrible thing because it brings people into their living room and that, but there's also the time frames they have to worry about, because a lot of these classes are live, and you know how things are in the world. There's people in Great Britain that are 4 hours difference from me, 5 from you. And, there's people on the other side, on the West Coast, that are another 4 hours different. That's an 8-hour difference span from English speaking people that would probably be the participants of your classes. So it's very hard to do. And, that's part of what I've been trying to figure out with my business, was which direction to go to market myself in this area of videos that would be most beneficial to everybody, not just people in my time zone.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not keen on lives for myself, is,
Yeah, I would think that because Zoom has the issue of it being live and you have to be there when it happens. The other issue with Zoom is that the quality, like the
yeah.
broadcast quality, is not as good. I think if I was one of these toll painting designers, here, I'm going to tell you how to do your job, Sheila. Take this with a huge grain of salt.
I'll
But
listen, but I might not
yeah,
implement.
what I would do is I would film Obviously it would take a long time to finish one of your, like, say your village pieces. You have a little sweet shop candy one that's so cute. Obviously that would take a long time because you have to let things dry. But if you did an edited video where like this is the background and then kind of did step by
Hmm.
step, edited it down so you had like an hour and a half or something, but you could see all the steps. I'd put that for free on YouTube, have a link to my pattern to buy, have a link to all the products using affiliate links. And then people need something, they can get what they need. If they have the color, great. If they want to buy the pattern, then you get to, um, you get to sell the pattern, but you don't have to teach that live over and over and over again. You've got one highly edited, which is going to be I think a better experience for the learner because they can pause it if they need to pause it to catch up. They've got higher resolution. They can put it on their TV in their living room if they want to see it really big versus maybe having to be at their computer or on their phone or on their tablet or whatnot. And it
Right.
can live in perpetuity where your patterns can be downloaded as many times as as you need. You could have a video on here's how to download a pattern. Here's how to transfer a pattern. Like have those basics on there so somebody that maybe like my mom wouldn't know what to do if she had to get a digital pattern. She would like, how do I pay for this? How do I get it? She doesn't
We
use a
get a
computer.
lot like that. We have a
Yeah.
lot of customers like that, that the first time, because when you buy on our sites, both of them, like my toe painting patterns, well, both sites, they're available as paper and PDF. And we have to keep the paper patterns up there, like I said, because a lot of our customers are an older demographic and don't have access.
Mhm.
But if they buy a PDF, they get a link on their receipt. And we still get a lot of calls where people see the link and they say, we didn't get it. Where's my pattern? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's the blue writing. And
Mhm.
and we wind up
Yeah.
emailing. We just email it to them because we can't, you know,
Mhm.
it's hard. And some people, it's hard for people to accept change and stuff like that. It is. But yes, getting back to the classes, my friend Vera's a painter and she does no designing. She's in Virginia and we became good friends because she bought my patterns years ago. She's even come to Nova Scotia twice for like a week at a time and stayed with me. And we would have been sisters in another life. We
Mhm.
really, we get along. We call each other besties. And she's very helpful with my business, even though she says, I'm not a designer, I'm not a business person, but gives me a perspective that I don't have. Being someone who's done this so many years, it's hard to sometimes think back to how it was before I did this. And, she's been so valuable, like, because business was slow last year. It was slowing down and I was just in a weird place, how we get as designers, and I wasn't doing it as much as I wanted to do. And she was like my cheerleader and, oh, you got to do this. And, oh, you got to do this. And, I went to this class, online with this, and I didn't like this part of it that happened. And I like this part. And, not that you take one person's word for it, but it helps to have different perspectives. And I'm trying to pick and choose. Like I'm doing a new series that I just released, or I'm starting to release. I just announced it to my Facebook group last weekend. And it's a series of patterns that they're buying all in one shot. And I'm going to set up a Facebook group for it. So it's not a subscription box because it's a one-time deal. And they're going to get exclusive for 2 months till August. And we're going to have the Facebook group and I'm going to do these videos. I may throw a live or two in there, but I'm going to do the videos like you said, because not everybody can come at 6:00 my time and visit. But I want to be there. Plus, I don't have a wingman, to answer questions. Like
Mhm.
I know you have somebody when you do your lives that
Oh
can
no,
root
I do
you
mine. Well, only if I do a Michael's live because they
right,
have
a
the Michael's board
Michael's.
app. But if I'm doing a live stream on my own, I'm
You
just yeah.
stop and read, and I would be
Yeah.
too nervous still because I'm not as comfortable yet. Maybe in a couple years, but I'd be too busy painting and trying not to knock something around on my desk. I'm still finding my way online and that, but Vera's going to kind of be my wingman for me, but we're going to do some trial runs and maybe do some lives where I just answer questions. But I thought the answer to that might be like a premiere where I
Mhm.
pre-film and edit everything. And then I present it, okay, we're going to premiere Saturday night at 8. And then they can ask questions and I could watch the premiere with them and answer and feel like I'm engaging with people on a personal level, because really that's what I like about the video stuff. Like that's how I got to know you was, oh, she's right across the bay. I remember watching one of your videos and you had mentioned you came up to Canada. It was years ago. You
Yep.
crossed over for something, and I thought, wow, I could almost throw a rock and see Lindsay. And
Yeah, well, we went up to go see the Magnetic Hill up in Moncton. We went to King's Landing and St. Frederickston,
Fredericton, Fredericton.
Fredericton. Yeah, um, yeah. We haven't been up since the pandemic. We're definitely gonna have to go
No,
go see Canada again. But yeah,
yeah,
I think that that Facebook is a great place for the toll painting group because a lot of people are comfortable with it, especially in that demographic, and then a lot of people are comfortable with YouTube, where they might not, trust going to a website they haven't heard of before, and Zoom might be a little complicated. And yeah, I think that's a really great way. And I saw your ad. So I'm gonna have a bunch of links in the video description and show notes for folks that are listening to this on their podcast player. Um, but Sheila has the cutest patterns, and she's got this gingerbread they're ornaments, aren't they? Right, the gingerbread ornaments. Oh, she's got it right there. The cutest
I
ginger
came
all the way.
prepared. Ginger all the
Oh,
way. And it's going to be a set of
oh, those.
16,
Uh,
15 ornaments and patterns, and they're going to get the wood. They're going to get the ribbons, the charms, and surprises. We're going to do surprises. And we're
oh,
going to
nice.
have some challenges. That's why I want to set up the group, because I want something to engage. This is the first attempt, like I said, that I'm doing. There's going to be, as I said, 16 patterns, and they're not going to be on my site or that until August 1st.
Mhm.
So, and they're discounted quite a bit, and everything buying separately is going to cost a bit more than the box. I'm doing the box for one price shipped because shipping has killed the
Yeah.
business, and it's going up again.
Oh
You,
no.
I mean, my shipping costs were amazingly high, and it's a sin because if people buy from me an ornament this
Mhm.
size, I charge $3 for the ornament, and it costs $5.95 to ship it.
Oh
And it's
man.
and I feel guilty. I always throw extra stuff in my orders. My customers can tell you, because I just feel so guilty. And it's like, okay, I'll cut some extra. I always have extra stuff cut but it's like, to me, it's criminal.
Mhm.
I'm an artist first and a businesswoman second,
Mhm.
unfortunately, like most of us.
Yeah.
I always said if I won the lottery, I'd probably be doing the same thing except for free, because I just love what I do. And,
Mhm.
because of that, I have to watch that I, can make a living. I call Keith
Mhm.
my bean counter, my partner,
Mhm.
because he's not in it for the love of art, and he will keep me in line with things,
Yeah.
and make sure that I'm not going to sink my ship here. But yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find the formula. And I didn't want to. The hard part is, like, if I committed to doing like a subscription box 3 times, 4 times a year, if it did do well, which we wanted to do well, I would have to cut, pack, ship.
Mhm.
And when am I going to have time to design the next one?
Yeah.
My biggest fear is I don't want to be a disappointment to people.
Mhm.
So it's very hard, even like Patreon. I talked about doing Patreon maybe and giving content out, but
Mhm.
it's like then you have to come up with content every week. I would have to make my people happy.
Mhm.
And then if I got busy and if the business boomed and I was stuck cutting, I mean, Lindsay, you wouldn't believe when I'm busy, I'll cut thousands of pieces. My
Mhm.
output is Keith always says you could cut faster than any laser and more accurate. And I really try. And, my customers, they pay a little bit more for me because it is hand done, but everything's sanded smooth. As a painter, I know, and especially with a lot of them being elderly, they don't want to sand the pieces. They
Mhm.
get the crap from China that has all the voids in it and the paint doesn't
Mhm.
want to sit on it nice, or the edges are crappy, or you get subpar cutting the shapes don't fit the pattern like they're supposed to.
Mhm.
And I'm just not like that. I mean, it's funny, but my clients know that they're going to get quality from me,
Yeah.
and I'm not the cheapest on the block, but I don't want to be.
Mhm.
People go to the dollar store and stuff like, and that's like with this too. Like, I'm giving the box pattern. This is going to be an extra pattern. I'm not giving this box, but
Mhm.
it can go on anything. I'm going
Mhm.
to show them how to decoupage. This is decoupage for the lid.
Mhm.
I'm going to show them how to paint. I painted so they can
Yeah.
match this to any shape. They could do the little candy cane. They can put that around a sign. They can put it on a round box. They can put it on
Mhm.
anything. And that's what I've been doing as the shipping's going up. I've been trying to do more patterns that don't require specific surfaces,
Mhm.
because then they can go to the dollar store, because not everybody has the means to buy, a $40 box and pay $20 to ship it. If this was actually the box that I used for this was $1.50 paper mache box from the dollar store. And I did it on that on purpose, just to show how nice you can make a cheaper surface look. You don't have to spend a lot for stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. I try to think of all the possibilities, and sometimes it's a good thing and a lot of times it slows me down, but then at the end of the day, when I finally do put something out, I'm really happy with it. Then I feel like I can promote it with confidence that I'm giving out the best product that I can for
Yeah.
people.
I always liked painting on those paper mache boxes you could get at the craft store. Do you ever go to like Michael's and see what the stock shapes are and the stock sizes and then like design for those products so that people can just buy it off the shelf and buy your pattern and then you don't have to ship?
Well, boxes, no. Well, boxes, yes, but shapes, it's hard because we don't all have the same thing. And being in Canada, that was a big change for me, Chicago to Nova Scotia,
Mhm.
because I mean, I could almost see to the ocean and it's probably 2 kilometers away. There's no houses, it's country. And
Mhm.
from going Chicago it's like New York, it never closes. I remember when I first started painting, my friend in Chicago, Carrie, and I did this together, and we would go from Michael's to Michael's to Frank's was a nursery and crafts. I don't know if they had those by you. We did the rounds for all the craft stores for finding supplies, but then I came to Canada and nothing was open on Sunday. And it's like,
Mm.
and I've come to embrace that. I kind of like it because it's like, yeah, I don't have to go out. I can't go out. I can't go to the store. You just learn to do
Yeah.
with what, make do with what you have. And I find that by designing on specific surfaces, like my village that you talked about, that's kind of the exception, because you kind of need a special piece for that, or the shape piece. But in general, I've been trying to do more that you can just do on any flat ornament or any flat sign, or even, Amazon sells the little square 1/8 inch boards, 12 of them in a pack for $20.
You're talking
Because
about the cradled ones, the ones that have the cradling, like the frame on
some
the
of
back
them
of them,
do,
or
but some are just boards. I mean, I got at Walmart an I just did yesterday, I'm doing progression sheets for these patterns, and it's just an 8x8 flat 1/8 inch birch board. And I bought the 3-pack, even though I got a ton of wood upstairs. I wanted to see the quality of them, and they were fine. I mean, they're a little thinner, than what I use, but they're certainly fine when you wind up painting and varnishing them and all that. And, you know, I don't want to restrict people because everybody's hurting. You don't hear of a lot of people that are doing really well these days, that aren't big bankers or whatever. I mean,
right?
regular craft people are hurting. Supplies are high, everything's going up so much, it's crazy. And,
Mhm.
I've been like you where I'm trying to less buy. I call it a less buy year. I I have enough supplies to last me about 3 lifetimes. My goal is to be like Betty White and live to be 99, and I will not get through a tenth of the supplies I have. But, I look at them. I keep everything organized, and I
Mhm.
love every single it's like not junk that I would get rid of, but I would feel bad if I don't use it, and I don't wanna keep collecting. And, there's always gonna be another paint that's different and another, and your job entails trying 10 different brands of paint, but, mine doesn't. Mine is like, I should have I have a good set of pastels that I like. I have a good set of oil pastels. I have a good set, of color pencils. I actually have 2. But, it's I think as a society, people are tired of collecting and buying and buying and buying. And as a designer, I would rather have them spend money on a new design than new materials to make it and use their own. And I've kind of embraced mixed media a lot, thanks to
Mhm.
you. And I love gouache, is cool. That's fun. And I got that from your class where I really started playing with my gouache, and I like that. And a lot of times I'll do a design and say gouache, and then I'll convert it to acrylics and make a pattern out of it. I've done that a few
Mhm.
times, and it's really been, and then at least I feel like I'm doing something arty, instead of
Mhm.
doing it for the job all the time.
Mhm.
It's very hard to divide my time between work and play, you know.
Mhm. Are all your patterns, acrylic based, or do you do? Because I know, like, I've designed for the Decorative Painter magazine, but I've done, like, colored pencil and watercolor for them, because they have oils, acrylics, colored pencil, watercolor. Do you stick to acrylics, or do you sell patterns in other media as well?
Well, I stick to acrylics, but I was just this morning telling Vera how I'm planning a beginning watercolor class because I
Mhm.
love watercolors so much. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of painters in my group. I have a group on Facebook, um, like a private group, and I call it Let's Paint and Create with Sheila Landry because I wanted to do everything. Because I also do embroidery and stuff. It's like any type of creating, not just painting. And there's been a lot that have expressed the desire to do watercolors. And I think a lot of people are very afraid of watercolors. I know I was afraid of them because they're not like acrylic
Mhm.
in the control factor. It's like learning how to control them is an issue. And I'm thinking of doing a class or a box or whatever like this, a series of small paintings, maybe 4 by 4, and teaching the basics. And I thought I'd include some like good Arches paper in there and, decent paints. I've been looking at the mini palettes and maybe give them a palette so they can try with some good supplies. Because when I started watercoloring, I picked up dollar store paper.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I know. And I spent time and I did a raven and it was looking so good. And as I started trying to layer over it, it started pilling.
Yeah.
And the paper looked a little gray. And the more I tried to lift, the more the paper pilled. And I still have it. I kept it because I wanted to remind myself not to get crappy paper anymore. And I know that not everybody can afford the best supplies, but I think it's a detriment when people buy subpar supplies and are trying something new. They do that with the scroll saw side too. What's a good
Hmm.
cheap scroll saw? And it's like,
Yeah.
what do you tell people?
Right.
If either something like that, you have to either it's okay to try, I guess, if you had something to try on, but when you're buying a tool like something big like that, it's very
Mhm.
hard. They want it for like under $200 and it's
Mhm.
like everything's made in the same factory and they're all crap and they're going to be frustrating and they're going to aggravate people like the
Mhm.
watercolor paper did with me. And I'm surprised that I even went ahead and continued on my watercolor journey, but it was like I was so frustrated. I wanted to just throw everything out. And I thought, what a waste of money this was.
Mhm.
So I guess you have to try with decent supplies. And I guess what I want to try to do is make up little kits that will give students the opportunity to maybe do a one-time expense that's not
Mhm.
exorbitant and dip their toe in a little bit and see if that's something they like when they're using quality supplies
Mhm.
instead of getting the cheapest thing because you know how complicated that can be, I'm sure.
Yeah. And the nice thing about watercolor for both newcomers to art, because it's such a compact and low VOC, environmentally friendly. I mean, it can be, you can make it very environmentally friendly and you can make it pretty affordable. And then watercolor is so long lasting, it's not going to dry up in the tube. If you make a little palette, it's always going to be reusable, unlike acrylic paints that can, if they don't get used up in time, they can get kind of chunky or um,
Yeah.
separate and go bad. And it's a small footprint. And as people get older, they might not want to have 200 tubes of acrylic paint and to have stuff that has to be washed, brushes that have to be washed out really meticulously. They might want that small little compact thing, especially as they get older and they don't feel like cleaning up, or maybe don't have as much space, or maybe they've gone to assisted living, so they just have a tiny area that they can work in. But then also people like I'm thinking of my daughters who love being crafty and artsy, and a lot of the stuff they do here because they've got the whole studio to pick from. But if they're in their dorm room, like having a sketchbook and a little set of paints or some paint pens or something is pretty much what they can handle. And if they're moving from apartment to apartment like most young people are, then I do agree with you. I think we need to get the young people down that into the arts and into the crafts, because even if they're never going to do it for their profession, just to like be able to relax and embroider something or do a watercolor or make a card and not feel like they have to have a massive spare room that's just for their hobby, which I feel like has kind of, I don't know, I think there's been like a tipping point where, and I don't want to talk because I have this big room here where I create, but I think it's gotten to the point where people used to be able to fit everything they owned in a little tote, like a little painting tote or
Mm-hmm.
a little scrapbook tote or a bag, and they would get so much done because they would go to like a class, or they would go get together with friends, or they would drag it to the kitchen table and they would get so much more done. Now we have all this stuff and all this space. We have everything we could want, all the inspiration we could want on our computer, and we spend all of our time just trying to decide what to do or being overwhelmed with all of our stuff. And I think anything that can simplify it and bring more people in of varying means is going to be good, because you need to get people in. Everyone's going to start somewhere, and if everyone uh, passes on with the knowledge and doesn't share it with the younger generation, then the art form's going to die out. So yeah,
Well,
I think you're right.
that's why I chose, or why I think I'm leaning towards watercolor, because I do use a lot of different mediums. I mean, I'm I'm okay, and I've done pastels, soft pastels, oil pastels. I haven't done a lot of pencils because it's slow, but I like pencils as a supplement. And that's another thing, one artist that I've been following, Vera had gotten me a subscription box from her, and she does acrylic painting with pencils. So all the detail work, instead of having to paint really fine details, you use pencils on. And it's a wonderful way to do things, especially for people who are older, who don't have that steady hand. It's funny, a lot of my customers say, I used to do this, but I shake now, or I have tremors now, or, as we get older, the bodies tend to give out. It's easier to hold a pencil than a paintbrush and paint. And as you said, the footprint, the acrylic's a tough place to start because it's like you said, it's long, its lifespan is short. Like, acrylic painters do not like mixing paints. And, that's one reason I love watercolors, is because it's taught me more theory, you know, without going in and saying I'm going to learn theory. But I learned theory. Like, I know more theory in the 3 or 4 years that I've been watercoloring than I learned in the 25 before in acrylic paints, because the paints, and I'm guilty like you, like mine are behind me on my day bed. I bought a day bed with a trundle underneath that holds 350 pounds, and mine, that's where my paint is stored, in my room here. So I have all my acrylic paints, and the one brand that I use is like, they have about 400 colors. And it's like, how many shades of red could you have? And I remember when I started painting in Chicago, as I said, we'd go from store to store to store because we needed, number 325 cherry red for this pattern, and we'd hunt it down, and I don't know how much gas we spent chasing around, and my daughter was a baby, and my friend's son was a little baby, and we'd be dragging the kids, and we'd find this color, and then we'd do the pattern, and it would be for blush on a cheek, the red. And it's like, so we did all this running and spent all this, and we could have just grabbed a red and put a little bit of white in it and tinted it to the color we wanted and call it a day. And it's funny, but I do think, and I'm not going to mention a company specifically, but some of the paint companies, they're training their customers that they have to have these colors. And it's frustrating to me, because every year then they dump 10 or 15 of them, which screws up like my patterns. I remember 2 years ago, I was doing one of the ones like the bakery, and before the pattern was even on the market, 3 of the colors were pulled from the company.
Oh, wow.
So the residual is going to be in the stores, but then people are going to look for them, and I can't go back and rewrite all my patterns. So then they come out with new colors, and you could hold the bottles back. And I didn't notice this until I started saving. I used to give away the colors that were discontinued so I wouldn't design with them. And now I just mark the caps and put them in the back of my stash. And when I started doing that, I noticed that the new colors were really close to the colors that they dumped 2 years ago. And it got me kind of upset because it screws up customers. They don't understand. It might be money.
Oh, they understand. They understand
Yeah,
exactly what
well,
they're doing.
they don't understand the impact that they're having, though, on themselves, the long-term impact, because it'll make their sales go up now because everybody has to have the new colors, right? There's 8 new colors this year, and everybody's oohing and ahhing about them. But they're going to lose a lot of people because these people are they're getting frustrated with this, and the designers are getting. I'm as a designer, I'm really frustrated with it. Like, I don't want to use the new set of colors. I got mine yesterday, as a matter of fact. They came to me because the company's been supporting me, since I've been in the magazine, and they send me their new stuff, and that's very kind. And a lot of the paint is there, but I don't even want to use it because it's very disheartening knowing that it's going to be obsolete in 2 years and knowing that they have such little regard for their clients. It's going to make them money initially because everybody wants to rush to the new things. But in the long run, it's going to lose customers because I've had so many people email me, write me, talk to me, and say they have 300 bottles of paint. They don't need more. How come they can't use colors from that? So, in my patterns, I started putting spot charts in
Oh,
there.
good. Yeah.
And I think I did that 2 or 3 years ago. And I cannot tell you the positive feedback that I've got from that. And I say right there, which, may or may not be, the paint company may or may not like it, but I said, here's the colors. Use anything close. You can use another brand. That way they could cross brands so they don't have to run out and find these things, like I said, for the dot on the cheek to go travel into 3 stores, and I think the way that we're going to change that is A, not buy it, and B, teach people to adapt. And most of the stuff, we're not doing portraiture or something that's you need specific colors, stuff like that. You have to be pretty specific, I guess, with what you use, or else it's not going to come out. I mean, I would say 98% of Tole painting, decorative painting, is whimsical things, flowers. Who's to say what shade of blue the flower is, really? It depends what time of day and how the sun is hitting it, and it's unfortunate to see customers struggling so much that they have to match this perfect color because that's what's been ingrained in them, from the paint companies. And I don't know. I guess that's my gripe about the system right now.
I wonder if because I think that whole thing, like the having 300 colors, I think that is the number one thing that is a turn off to the younger people that would consider getting into that hobby. I know that would be a turn off to me if it's like if I had to start this, I have to get all these things. It's expensive, especially young people who do not have the disposable income and they don't have very much time. And to say, oh, and you're going to need all these surfaces, you're going to need all these paints, you're going to need all these brushes, and it's overwhelming. And I think if you could pick and choose and take like the technique from the Tole painting world, learn how to mix colors, or somehow like get the clientele comfortable with working with like a basis of maybe 20 colors, and that way they can have high quality products because they don't have to buy 400 of them, and then they can mix exactly what they need and replace one tube as it runs out, not when it goes bad, not replace 25 when they go
Right.
bad.
Well,
It could be a good way to branch them
there's an
over.
alternative company that I've been using, and I just started with them with this subscription box that I had gotten for Christmas, and they use this other brand of acrylic paint, but it doesn't. You need a sealer over it, which I haven't used it enough to really teach it. You know how, like, you say you don't like to do your reviews till you really use a product. So I have to have a little more time after I get a break when I finish this box project. I'm going to really take some time with it. And that's one of my courses. They sell a kit of 14 colors for like $35. They're small tubes, but acrylics go a long way too. They're about an ounce and a half, 2 ounces. So they're a little smaller than the 2-ounce bottles, but they're in tubes. And the 14 colors include black and white. So it's the color wheel plus black and white. And I want to take that kit. It's like $35. So that's all they would have to invest. And I was discussing this with Vera. I want to do a whole series, a whole class on using only those colors. And we're going to tint them and we're going to shade them and we're going to get those people to mix,
Yeah.
And I want to do that. And they're good with a wet palette. a lot of acrylics. They'll last a while. I think that's the fear too that people have is with acrylic paint is if you mix a color, how are you going to mix the same color again?
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
how are you going to get that same exact ratio? And you're kind of probably not gonna, but is it going to matter? 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, it is not. Nobody would know the difference. If I painted, one side of the jacket with this and then came back a week later and remixed, you wouldn't notice.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's retraining customers, and in that process, we are going to pick up new people that aren't going to have to buy 400 bottles of paint. They're going to say, okay, I could buy this kit and I could mix any color with it. That's where the teaching is so important.
Mhm.
You can't spoon feed people. Well, you can, but I mean, I think people will do a lot better if you teach them how to improvise,
Mhm.
because people get so set in having to, like I said before, you have to follow it to the letter, and
Mhm.
it's a very it's a poor way to teach, I think, in some ways, and
Mhm.
it's why I like the mixed medias so much and the different, like the sketchbooks and that, because I like learning processes more than projects, you know.
Mhm.
When I watch a video, and I have my Patreon and learning budget, I'm in your critique club. I've been in there for a couple of years, and I'll go back and look at projects, and no offense, but I'll go through the videos and I'll get to halfway through or 10 minutes through, and then I go off on my own way. It's like,
Yep.
okay, but doesn't mean I don't learn from it, because
Mhm.
I'll have stuff on in the background, my classes, and I'll listen, and it's like, oh yeah, that's nice. And it all sinks in.
Mhm.
We all learn, but I mean, I think the best teachers are those that teach you to think on your own and to be your own creative. They
Mhm.
give you the tools and then they let you have fun with them,
Mhm.
without rules or,
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense or,
Oh, yeah, I think so. If you can, it's like it's giving somebody a fish versus teaching them to fish.
yeah.
You want to give them the tools so they can go on and build after you're out of there, after you're no longer their teacher. You want them to be able to go on and apply what they've learned to their own independent projects. Do you want to say what that acrylic set you were talking about is? Because I'm sure somebody's going to ask.
It's Joe Sonia's paint,
Yeah.
joesonia.com. And they're very reputable. Do you know since 1985, they have 80 acrylic colors.
Oh,
And
really?
80, but the set is it's a starter set. It's on their page. And since 1985, they have only discontinued 4 colors.
Oh, wow.
It's like
Now, Joe
that
Sonia's
sold
is
me.
a Yeah, they're a matte acrylic gouache. They were probably
They're
the
a
first
matte.
acrylic gouache to come out. Their paint's very nice. I've used it
They
before.
have beautiful paint. Well, I like high quality. And Joe Sonia herself, I have not taken classes with her, but I have her books in that. And she has such a reputation for quality. And I mean, I reached out to them in January when I was considering, because that's the paint that this kit came with, and I used it, and it's like, wow, this is really high quality, nice paint. And I thought, maybe I should switch to them. And I went on their site and I saw this kit. And I mean, I've bought all the products. They don't give me the products or that. I bought them myself, and I've been playing with them. And I thought it was a fabulous idea. And I thought, look, why don't I just get this kit and see what we can do with that and limit myself? Because I find when I have too much, I'm like everybody else. I want the full set. I don't know, just to have it.
Mhm. The
If
collector,
they
it's the
have,
collector in us.
as I look at your pencils behind, or your
Markers,
beautiful
yeah.
colors. Keith says I'm addicted to color, and I am guilty of that. I do
Yeah.
like having the colors, but I said to him, not too long ago, because I started buying into Roman Schmal watercolors. I like honey-based watercolors. I like M. Graham. I started off with Mission Gold, and they're all beautiful and they're nice. And I got the pure pigment set from Mission Gold, and I thought that was one of the best things because it helped me mix better because I could understand. It helped my understanding of pigment numbers. And you know, I said to him, I really don't need more than, these 8 colors, and I can make any color. When I paint for myself on the weekends, I'll go on Pixabay or something and grab a picture, and I just paint to make it match, the color. I don't pull out, my whole sets of, you know, 40 colors. I pull out, a palette of 10 or 12, and it's like, let's see if I can make this look the same. And you can do it. If you have, the right 5 or 6, you can do it. And, it's a matter of how lazy you want to be. Like, I know DX Purple is one that's not in a lot of the basics. And I know Steve, I bought his set of M. Grahams.
Yeah.
He has a curated set that he did with M. Graham of 10 tubes, and they're beautiful. And I watched all his mixing videos, and The Mind of Watercolor, for those of you who don't know Steve I'm referring to.
He's been on the show before too, on the podcast too.
Yeah, I watched it. I watched before coming on. It's like he's been one of my favorites for years. I love him. And yeah, it's like stuff like that. Like he's helped a lot with showing how few paints you need to make so many beautiful colors. It's really lovely. And I guess it's why I like the watercolors, because it's so instant too. Like watching those colors mix and knowing that I can put the palette away and bring them out in a week, when I have time again, and continue my journey without having to start over. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, and because watercolors can be kind of expensive for the small tubes, but getting those pure colors, they have so much versatility and they go so far that you get those right colors, and it can be an affordable hobby. And once you get set up, it's very affordable because you can spend a lot of money, but you don't have to. They'll last you a long time, and you really get your
Well,
money's worth.
I tried those. I think I asked you about them. Primas. They're a cheaper
Oh,
watercolor.
the Prima marketing. Yep.
Yep. And my friend Tracy sent me the pastel set. It's like
It's a weird one.
it's a
That's a
vintage one. I did a little. I found a bird on Pixabay, and I did a little sparrow, and it looked beautiful.
yeah.
But my other friend that I follow, Kelly, she has the Ganze Tambo
Mm-hmm. Gansai Tempe.
vintage. Yeah, Tambi,
Yep.
the vintage set.
Oh, the Art Nouveau
Art
set.
Nouveau.
Yes,
And the
I like
Pima
that one.
set is very similar to that, though. That's why I've been fighting. It's been in my Amazon cart for like 6 months, and it keeps going up and down. And I told Keith, saw it in there, and he's like, "Are you gonna get?" I said, "No." I said, "I got this set," and then what I did, just for the light fastness, I swatched out the Prima set, and it's been on my window now for about 6 months, and I just checked it last week, and they have not faded at all, and I
Oh
was
wow.
shocked
I'm shocked
because
too for a pastel set because
for
pastels
such a
tend to be less light fast.
plus they were so cheap. I wound up buying a
Yep.
couple of the other somebody gave me a gift, and then it set me on a road, and I bought like, 3 or 4 of the other sets, and then I bought my friend Vera the full set with all the colors and sent them down to her. So
Yeah.
I guess the gift cost me a little bit of money, but
Oh
I
yeah,
could
that
just
that
I'm
that Art
bad,
Nouveau set is so beautiful. I remember
isn't it?
because when I saw it and I'm like, oh, I want that, and it was out of
Did you
stock. So it was
get
like as soon
it?
as it came, I did. I
Is
did,
it
and I've done a
nice?
few like kind of storybook, kind of like vintage storybook illustrations with it, and it's lovely. The colors are rich; they're very muted. Um, I like it, but yeah, it's not one that I use that often. I probably should get it out more often, but it's. I'm glad to have it. It's like when it's in the collection, and
I
I just can't even
know.
justify
Well,
it. I'm ashamed of
I check
myself.
it
Not
every
really.
day. It went down to $48. See, I'm in Canada, so I'm in
Yeah.
Canadian. So it went down to 48 and then it went back up to 55. I didn't get it. And I thought,
Yikes.
well,
Yep.
and now it's down to 52. And I said to Keith, well, if it goes under 45, if it goes to 40, I may have to get it. I told
I
him
do that too.
because,
It's like
well,
watching the stock market. Oh yeah, I know
yeah.
what you mean. It's a beautiful set. We have this site. I don't know if it will work with Canadian Amazon prices, but in America, I don't know if it's an American site or not, but it's called Camel Camel Camel, and you
Oh,
put in the link for the Amazon product, and
oh,
it'll
track
tell
it.
you what it is, what it historically is, and what the lowest it's ever been is, what the highest it's ever been is. So you can look to see if there's any patterns, or you could know, like, okay, this has never been cheaper, I'm going to buy it, or oh, this was way cheaper 5 months ago, or and then because if you've seen it go down to that price before, chances are it will go down to that price again. I found with Amazon stuff, not always, but a lot of the time.
Well,
So,
I got my Prismacolors, which I swore I wouldn't get because I have the vintage set from the
mhm.
90s. And
Yep.
there were only how many? 100 in there?
Let's see. I know I got a
120.
set of I got a
The
set
black
of
box.
144 in the 90s, but they weren't all color pencils. Like there was like a 12 set of um of just graphite pencils. So maybe it was like 120 or
It was
130 or
like
something.
120, and it's one of the few things I brought from Chicago here. And then I'm glad I did because they went down their rocky path. But then I saw the set of 150 was only 114 Canadian dollars, which was
Nice.
like, that's converted probably to about 80, $85.
Yeah.
And I couldn't resist. I got it. And he's like, I
Yeah.
thought you weren't going to get those Prismas, that they were bad. Because that was my justification for getting
Mhm.
the um, Faber-Castell pencils.
Mhm.
He's like,
They're
don't
so
you have
different
pencil?
though.
I know they are
Yeah.
different. They are. And it's like, and seriously, which is sad, is I don't use them a lot. I use them for accents because I don't. But see, when I started watching YouTube videos, like right before I saw you, Lisa from Latree, I
Mhm.
was following her. I know you had her on the podcast too.
Yep.
And she was the one that really got me involved in doing fine art with pencils because I don't know if I was on Pinterest and I saw her work. And that was before I even knew that you can do that kind of thing with colored pencils. And I thought, wow. So yeah, so now I have the 150 set. I'm guilty, but that's it, right? We keep
I
saying,
also fell prey to the 150 set on sale, but I got it for 59 American dollars in
how?
2017. And they were
Who
all
did you
great pencils.
kill?
I'd never broken one in the bunch. I had bought the set like because people were always had been saying that Prismas are junk because they
Mm-hmm.
had that really bad few years there when they
Run.
moved the things to Mexico. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm buying a small set and I'm going to compare it to my old barrel Prismacolors. And because I had some barrels and I had some Sanford and from the Sanford ones are from the 90s, the barrel ones are from the 80s. And I compared them. A couple of the colors I had to change a little bit, but I didn't have breakage issues, no more than what they always have had. And so I was like, you know what? I think that they've gone through their little hiccup and it's probably safe to buy them again. And so then I saw the 150 set for $59. I'm like, I'm getting that. And I don't regret it because I took all my other ones, which they were getting down to nubs. Those are upstairs on my fun art desk. And I opened up the 150 set and have them down here next to my where I sit. And I'm always grabbing them for accents
Yeah.
and stuff. And I mean, I love the build quality of Derwent. I think Derwent's pencils are so much better made and they're not really that expensive comparatively. Just Prismacolors have gotten they've reduced their standards and they've gotten their price down. It's just hard to touch their prices a lot of the times in the United States, not in other countries. But I heard that some stores up in Canada are no longer selling open stock Prismacolors. But
Well,
luckily
see,
they still are here in America
I
anyway.
could get them from Amazon US because I do have, since I'm a dual citizen, I still have an account that's hooked to my Canadian. I have two bank accounts and,
Hmm.
so I can just buy
Oh
them
yeah.
there without having to pay exchange. And if
Yeah.
worse comes to worse, my friend Vera will mail stuff to me. Her husband's a
Yeah.
stamp collector. How is that like? And that's an older hobby. So when his people pass away, unfortunately, the collections of stamps go,
Mhm.
they'll give them away, and a lot of them are not really collectible but usable.
Yep.
And the boxes I get from Vera, they're just wall-to-wall stamps.
Oh, neat.
It's so she'll mail anything to me that I don't take advantage of it. I only do it, certain times, but a lot of times too, her husband likes with the collectible stamps. He likes to have them stamped, and then they're worth more once they're
Mhm.
canceled.
Yep.
So I'll have to I have 2 boxes there that I have to mail back to
Yeah.
her. I cut them down and flatten them so he can
Oh, funny.
do surgery on them and keep them, but that helps me get my US
Mhm.
supplies. I mean,
Yeah, you could probably order from Blick with your American stuff and have it shipped to her, and
yeah, I do
then
to
and then she
her,
could
but
send it to.
Blick to me it's sad because
It'd
the
be
shipping
expensive.
is anything that goes through FedEx, and they do and they charge, duty, taxes.
Mm.
You pay more than the stuff. It's terrible.
Wow.
The only one
I
that can from another country is Jackson's. I don't know, what they have going on with shipping, but they're the only cheap shipping out of Canada. That's probably the
Yeah.
hardest thing with moving here is like you see all the
Mhm.
bargains. It's probably a good thing
Mhm.
because I have
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, definitely. It's very tempting. It's tempting. Every once in a while, I have to do a no buy month just because I've gone off the rails and I need to just I'm not good at moderating. It's like I've either got to just completely cut it out for like a month and then I can get back to where like buying a pen is a thrill. Yeah, otherwise, because you get desensitized and it's like, oh no, the pen's not gonna. It's like a drug. It's like the pen's not gonna
It
like
is.
give me that thrill. I need to buy a whole box of something, or a whole set of something because one tube of paint isn't going to be a thrill. So yeah, I've gotta abstain
I'm
from
in
it for
that
a
on
while.
mode now. After I said to him, the Amazon guy that delivers is going to think we died because we went like a month without getting Amazon. And now he's here like every day because I've been buying stuff for this box that I'm like the
Mhm.
ribbon and the paper and, the charms and it's like, oh yeah, I use that for my customers. And it's like,
I
we
know,
just
it's
put,
funny. You think about what we did before the online ordering, and we'd go to town when we needed something, and we'd pay a lot more for that one thing, but we just buy the one thing, and now we have access to a bunch of cheap things, and we buy all these little cheap things, but we get lower quality and we get so much more, and we're probably spending a lot more because it's just so tempting. Whereas if we had to go to the store, the physical store, and spend $30 on a brush, we wouldn't be buying this brush set and that brush set and this and that and the other. We spend $30 and that would be it. And we probably spend like $130 buying all this like inferior stuff.
well,
So
it's
it's
hard because it's for your
so silly.
work and mine too. It's hard to,
Yeah.
when you love your work, it's hard to get out of that gray area and not justify everything. I'm the
Mm,
queen of justification.
yeah.
I can justify it till the cows come home, and I just have to be very, I have to take a conscious effort and look at my beautiful stuff and use my beautiful stuff and
Mhm.
stop, you know, stop buying new. But there's always that little something. Well, just one more thing. This is a
Yeah.
little different.
Curiosity, man. Curiosity
Oh,
killed
I
the cat.
know,
Curiosity
I
kills my
know.
budget. My budget.
Well, and that's it. You got a budget. It's like my
Yeah.
class budget.
Mm,
I shift around like my Patreon. I like that Patreon you could drop and pick up people, and because I'll do somebody, and I always feel bad though because I feel like the teachers become my friends because I always interact and ask questions, and then I feel bad about dropping classes, but then they keep building as my skills change and my interests change, then they build. So I've been pretty good with sticking to a budget on that, but it's very easy to keep wanting to do different things when we're in
yep.
different, mediums and that too.
Yep.
Right?
There's so much to learn and so much to try, and especially in the world of art, if you're curious and you love it, there's just so many roads you can take, and I
It's
love
a
that. I just
great
need to.
time to be an artist. I don't want
Yeah,
to
it
hear
it
art is
really is.
dying. I get mad at those people. It's like, no. No,
No,
art's
no,
not
it's
dying.
here, it's here, and I think you'll see a big rebellion against the AI art where people want to get their hands dirty and want to make real art with their hands, and
That's sad, and I stick my head in the sand with that. I don't wanna hear it, because you know what? Nothing will ever replace the satisfaction you get from making something yourself, and that
mhm,
includes on a computer. You
mhm,
know, like, some people can draw on a computer and do digital art,
mhm,
and, I'm not a big fan because I like my hands-on thing, but then when I make my videos in that I could when I made that promo for my boxes, I had so much fun that it actually dawned on me, like, this is why people like making digital art, because you're manipulating pixels, yeah, but
mhm,
it's fun, and it's like, I find goofy music. I like my promos,
mhm. Yeah, the promo for
it
that box came out really nice, I think.
it's fun, and I'm on the basic, what do I use? Filmora for that. I won't buy any music or any of the extras. I did pay for the program. I'm not on the free platform, but I kind of draw the line because Pixabay and that, they got music in there. I didn't even know that. They have overlays and all that. It's kind of fun playing. It's like, how many careers can I have? I could
No,
I
I
could
say be a Renaissance woman and just follow your curiosity and go from there. Well, we've been talking for over an hour and a half, or just
Oh,
about an hour and a
wow.
half. Um, I have one more
Yeah.
question for you before we go. What advice would you give somebody that wants to start toll painting?
I would tell them to be have an open mind and be brave. It's only paper, it's only wood, you know. Find as many different teachers that excite you as you can. You're not going to get everything from one teacher. Yeah, I find that a lot of my friends will say, "Why do you always recommend this teacher and that?" Like in my group or whatever, I'm always talking about other teachers, or in my blog I do that. I always
Mhm,
link to people who have enriched my journey. And why would you promote them when that's your business? It's going to take away your business. And it's like, no, we're creating artists here. If we can't be everything to everybody. And if you're starting, you need to look at a variety of different teachers, and you're going to find something that's going to click and something that's going to make you excited. And as long as you're happy, there's no wrong way to do it. It's like any type of art. You can listen to what they say, and I find many teachers have great advice, but then the more I learn, then the more I want to do my own thing on it. I'll find a certain teacher. I don't want to paint like that teacher. I want to learn what that teacher teaches me and then paint like Sheila,
mhm,
which that's the hardest thing, is finding, like, I like so many things. It's very hard for me to find something to settle on, but you don't have to. Who says you have to do one type of art, you know? And
mhm.
I don't know. I guess the most important thing is just to have fun. If you have a buddy to do it with, that's even better. I find that other people around you, be it online or whatever, it makes it more fun to have others doing the same thing you're doing. So I don't know, just try, try, jump right in.
That's great advice. So, where can people who want to learn more about your patterns, see your work, and get in touch with you? How can they find you?
I have a YouTube channel, and I have tolepaintingdesigns.com is my pattern website, and woodworking, well, it's pattern and surfaces, I guess. I have my woodworking surfaces that I sell there, and I have my WordPress blog. And I write every Sunday. I've been really good at that. I saw the calendar, and since August, I don't think I've missed a Sunday. So, yay me.
Nice.
getting in habit of doing it. So I try to say something in there, and it's not just here's what I'm doing by it. I try to give you thoughts on what I observed over the week with art related. So there goes Wolf Blitzer, my cat.
I know, I've
Just
seen your cat
walking.
hopping around in the background.
Yeah, that was he. But
Cute.
yeah, I guess that's it. And Facebook, I have Let's Paint and Create with Sheila Landry group. So I guess I'll give you all those links. So
Yeah, and we'll put
I'm
them in
all
the show
over.
notes and in the video description so everyone can get in touch with you if they want to see your beautiful artwork. The Christmas village
Thank
is so
you.
cute, and the new gingerbread kit. That would be just the perfect. You want to get together with your friends and do a paint party, or just like a kind of get together, sit around the kitchen table, share supplies, and everybody paint a
Yeah,
couple
well,
ornaments. How fun
you
would that
talk
be?
limited palettes. I think I only used 12 paints in that. I tried to limit it.
Nice.
I tried to do simpler. See, that's hard for me because I've done realism. Like if you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see
Hmm.
a tiger I did Houghton, and that was done in acrylics, and it was 40 some hours of work. And it's
Mm,
like, it's funny with working with the magazine for 20 years, you always want to give your best when you're published, right? And they got me when I was just, very young and starting out. So we're always trying for our best. And the way I look at it is it's like a pyramid, but as you get better, you're appealing to less and less people. And I find that like what I do, like the Houghton things and like the realistic animals that I do, the pastels and that, it's intimidating to people.
mhm.
And it's hard to design backwards. It's hard for me to design simpler because I feel like I'm not doing my best sometimes. But the simpler stuff is the bottom of the pyramid, and that's going to appeal to more people. People don't want to have to spend 40 hours on a project.
Yeah.
And these are fun. They're cute. I think I'm excited about them. They kind of got me out of my because I think I got something that was just what I needed at the time. I think they're going to be fun and simple but cute. So
Yes,
I hope
absolutely.
I hope
Well,
people like them. So far, they're doing okay, and I'm going to limit the number of boxes because I got so many supplies, and then I'll have to put a waiting list or something if I get to that good point. I
mhm.
will do that. But so thank you
Yeah, so
so
if you
much
want
for
them, go check
having
them
me.
out, go grab them now.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much for spending some of your afternoon with us. I want to thank everyone who listened and joined us for this
thank
fun
you.
conversation. Again, check out the show notes if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, or the video description if you're watching on YouTube. If you want to see Sheila's adorable cat, Wolf Blitzer, in the background of the video, you'll have to watch us on YouTube, and you'll also get a sneak peek at some of her artwork that she held up in the video. But there will be links to everywhere you can find Sheila, and you can check that out if you want to learn more. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting. Bye.